Normally a relaxed, chatty character, Oliver Hirst Greenham appeared distinctly nervous as he entered the clubhouse at Thonock Park, Lincolnshire, for his first EDGA tournament back in June. The Pink Open for golfers with disability was certainly new territory for him. Oliver's disability isn't that noticeable, and he had been worrying about this. Would he look like he was an intruder? Was there anyone else like him in the tournament? Would he fit in with other players? This was the first day at a whole new school. Later in the day, after his practice round, Oliver looked a completely different person. Like all his questions had been answered. His smile was beaming, and there was a sparkle in his eyes. He'd been made to feel welcome during the practice round by his two playing partners. The first, a leg amputee, and the other, a one-armed player. And he was busy buying them a well-deserved post-round beer amid plenty of chatter. When Oliver launches a big drive down the fairway, and he hits it miles, fellow golf partners may be unaware of the pain he's having to cope with as he plays and the awkwardness of the hip and leg and back motion involved throughout his swing. They will also not be aware of the countless sessions of hip and leg manipulation under general anaesthetic, all to give him a few weeks of greater mobility and less daily pain. But Oliver puts up with it, all the pain, to enjoy the wonderful world of golf. The game suits two distinct sides to his personality very well. He loves playing golf with other people, and he has a lively sense of humour and loves conversation. This is his extrovert side. Golf creates a happy place for him and his friends at Morecambe Golf Club in Lancashire, where he has always been coached and trusted by PGA golf professional Simon Fletcher. On the flip side of the sociability, he also loves golf for the peace and quiet. He has a stressful job being a round-the-clock carer for a gentleman with learning difficulties and loves nothing better than 9 holes on his own in the evening or hitting 100 shots on the driving range, enjoying the rhythm of hitting balls against a largely silent backdrop. And now that Oliver has discovered EDGA, his rare health condition is making him focus on new opportunities as a player in 2022, keeping him excited about the future.
I've got congenital hip dysplasia, so I was born with very shallow hip sockets, whereas you would consider a normal person would have like a really deep socket for the femur, the bone to sit in, and it's supported. But basically, because mine's very shallow, all the muscles and the tendons and everything are all very underdeveloped as well because of that, and the bone moves around in the sockets.
Managing his mobility issues over time, aged 37, Oliver has settled for playing club competitions at Morecambe Golf Club. With nothing else on the horizon, he has in the past worried about his condition, its impact on his life in general, and the game he enjoys so much.
Just recently, I heard about one of my friends who's also a really good golfer. He was talking about this G4D tour, people with disabilities and stuff, and he kind of just said, have you ever had a look at this? So I did say I've thought about it in the past, but I thought I'd have a good look at it. And I had a look at the requirements, and I thought I'll just apply. It doesn't hurt to apply, does it? The thing was, I was really nervous about coming, to be honest, because the thing with me is my hips, and nobody can see inside my body, and they can't see my hip joints. Whereas somebody who's, say, I played with a chap the other day, and he had 2 prosthetic legs. So it was a bit nerve-wracking, but then I came up on my first day, everybody was great, and then I played with Cedric, and then I played with Darren on my practice round.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, they just put my mind at ease. They were fantastic.
Oliver had been assessed by the EDGA medical examiner, who understood the condition and issued the appropriate player pass.
And I was accepted, which was fantastic. They gave me an access pass, and that was brilliant. I just thought it's a really good way of playing golf courses, making some new friends, and really, really chuffed. I came up and I had my assessment with the physio, and he told me that my hips were weak enough to get the WR4 pass. Yeah. So that completely opened up a whole different thing, because obviously I was just coming just to be part of the environment and stuff, and then all of a sudden this world ranking system's come in. I don't even know how it's scored. I don't know really anything about it, but I know obviously that if you do really well, you have a chance to play with on the G4D tour.
Oliver has now played 3 EDGA tournaments, and he says he's loved every minute of the experience. After his third event, the EDGA Rockcliffe Open in July, he said he would like to dedicate his time to going as far as he could with EDGA. He has certainly made an impressive start. At the time of writing, he's risen to 16th in the world ranking after a trio of top 5 performances, and his dream now is to reach the G4D Tour. Golf, Oliver argues, is a fantastic sport for so many people with disability. He cites all the physical and mental health benefits, including the social confidence it brings to its players. He also reasons that you are playing the game against yourself, in that all golfers are free to explore their own personal potential, whether trying to get the very best scores in intense competition or simply playing at your own pace, chipping and putting, enjoying the nature around you. Oliver values both sides of the game. It certainly offers a valuable release in pressure from a job he loves, but which can also be stressful. Oliver spent years working with children and young people with challenging behaviours, but he found his hip condition, as it worsened, made it very difficult to work physically on the same level as the kids. So he moved on to working with adults with learning disabilities.
I'm a care worker. I'm a manager of a care home, so I look after a man with learning disabilities. And I absolutely love it. I just love looking after people. I just love people, so that's why I talk people's heads off.
A focus of 100% is needed, especially in public situations.
If they're walking around in town, for example, and there's a random noise that me and you would just hear normally, and we just pass it off as being a random noise, it can spark a really big episode, you know. But then the thing is, it's not just managing the person you're looking after, the people around you, because they don't understand that this person, you know, and it can be quite difficult and challenging at times.
The job demands calmness in order to succeed, an attribute that Oliver carries with him to the golf course.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty calm anyway, to be honest. I kind of just go with the flow. It's like I was talking to people today when I play golf. You know, the first couple of holes, I doubled the first by hitting a driver. It completely disappeared. Lost my ball. Doubled the first, no problem. Moved on to the second. Lost my ball off the tee again. Doubled the second. I was just like, this is golf. You know, this is what happens.
Oliver describes himself as very passionate about the things in his orbit. Family and friends and golf. But he has also learned over the years, partly due to his jobs, that he must look at each situation on its own merit and deal with it accordingly.
See, when I was younger, my putter used to go further than my ball sometimes. But no, now there's so many more problems in the world than hitting a bad golf shot. You know what I mean? So I love playing well, and I'd rather play well than play bad, obviously. But yeah, no, there's more things happening in my life to worry about than hitting bad golf shots.
So much so, in fact, that Oliver clearly enjoys golf as a therapy on many occasions.
I love it, absolutely love it, because it's quiet. Like, if I go out on my own, I mean, anybody I play with will tell you I never stop talking, because I just talk their heads off all day, because I just love chatting to people. But when I'm on my own, it's really good. You can just go at your own pace, you know. And I usually play in the evenings, and the course is really quiet, so I can just saunter around on my own, at my own pace, and I just love it. You know what I mean? It just gives you a bit of freedom.
Oliver Hirst Greenham lives in Morecambe in the northwest of England. When he was very young, he lived briefly in the famous Art Deco Midland Hotel there, where he remembers a famous episode of Poirot being filmed. His extrovert and somewhat wild personality as a boy led him to being enrolled at Morecambe Golf Club as a way of teaching him that you can be calm and still have fun. It was a valuable golf and life lesson. The extrovert boy still resides in the adult's body and mind. Oliver is well matched by his wife Wendy, a music DJ well known in the area, and their children, son Matthew, 14, and daughter Olivia, 12. Dad's infectious sense of fun sees him partial to the occasional foray into the karaoke bars. In family stories, it was Wendy's grandparents who suggested that Oliver apply to the TV talent show Stars in Their Eyes. So he recorded a CD, sent it off, and was selected ahead of thousands, where he performed his version of the song Amazed by Lone Star on the show. Today, Oliver says he has much enjoyed the whole social side of EDGA events, so he won't rule out taking to the stage at some point in the future and hopefully entertaining his fellow players. As for the serious side of competition, to keep his golf to a high standard, he acknowledges that he will have to manage his condition well. There is the ever-looming danger of dislocation of his hip joints over time. He must therefore crack the conundrum by managing mobility and pain in the best way. For years he had taken pain relief through prescribed drugs, but over time these had caused intense stomach discomfort, which led him to having to take another type of medication for his stomach also. One drug to cancel out the issues of the other. Since joining the EDGA community, he has been introduced to a single rider golf buggy and found that his old way of thinking was completely wrong, when he would carry his clubs and be really struggling rather than to look like he was asking for favours. However, fellow EDGA players have given him the confidence to push these feelings aside and do what's best for him rather than to follow social conformalities. Since joining the EDGA community, he has been introduced to single-rider golf buggies and found that his old way of thinking was completely wrong, when he would carry his clubs and really be struggling rather than to look like he was asking for favours. However, fellow EDGA players have given him the confidence to push these feelings aside and do what's best for him rather than follow social conformities. He has recently purchased a buggy's golf cart which he uses at every opportunity, even at home on the local golf course, to alleviate some of the pressure on his body. Oliver's hip condition has developed over time during his younger years and probably being at its worst around age 20.
I always had pain in my knees and my hips. When I was younger, I had Osgood Schlatt's disease in my left knee, and it's like the bone slightly forward in the lower leg. And as I grew older, that developed into patellar tendonitis. So I've always had like really bad left knee. And I used to do a lot of sports. And I just found, like, when I was playing football, when I was running around, I used to get really uncomfortable hips, but we didn't know anything about it at that time. I'd be in goals and I'd be kicking balls and I'd hit it and I'd get like just little pains in my hips, and I just kind of just thought, everyone was like, oh, it's growing pains, everything, you know, that kind of thing. So we never really looked into it.
Oliver puts great trust in his hip specialist, Dr. Clayson, who works at Wrightington Hospital in Lancashire, a specialist centre for hip treatment. He has had plenty of manipulation under general anaesthetic and cortisone injections which giving him exceptional relief from pain and aid mobility. But as this benefit fades over the course of a couple of weeks, the medics are cautious about repeating general anaesthetics too often. For Oliver to feel more mobile and confident for 2 weeks is fantastic, as he finally sleeps well, a luxury many other people take for granted. So, for Oliver, it comes back to the management of his body.
Yeah, for now, for example, so I've played golf today. As long as I keep moving, I can go down to the range, hit some more balls, and I can do whatever. But as soon as I stop, then everything tightens up, right? And then I walk like I'm a really old man. My wife finds it quite amusing.
This uncertainty for the future, plus opening his eyes to his potential in EDGA events, means he'll push his golf as far as he can go. He dreams of sharing a practice ground with Rory and Tiger and just hitting one drive 350 yards down the range and then putting the club back in the bag. He jokes that a straight one would only be followed by 3 bad ones. Oliver has always been a big hitter off the tee, so much so that 15 years back he was competing in Europe's longest drive competition, reaching a final in Holland. But the Oliver of today only has designs on controlling the golf ball better and hitting it straighter. At his first EDGA tournament at Thonock Park, Oliver, like a few other players, took advantage of the offer of a custom fitting session with the Ping technicians, as Ping's National Fitting Centre is on site at Thonock Park. Oliver labelled his experience as brilliant, with the staff really helping him to understand what he needs from here to get a better result out of his driver technology. The thoughtful side of Oliver is also much present when he talks about learning from other golfers. He clearly has a shrewd mind and studies the tour golfers as he looks for any small swing improvement, for example studying the technique of Lee Westwood as he rates his swing so highly. At the EDGA Rockcliffe Open, RSM and EDGA ambassador and ladies European Tour player Alice Hewson gave her time to present a special clinic on putting. Alice's attention to detail and focus she brings to the short game impressed. Oliver was hugely impressed and he has now taken on her drills and ideas to work much harder and smarter on that part of his own game. From this practice, Oliver leaves this writer with a final thought. He says, "Perhaps the best thing of all about golf is that we're always able to learn something new about ourselves."